This episode is sponsored by Tattoo Away, a groundbreaking solution for safe and effective tattoo removal. Unlike traditional laser methods, Tattoo Away uses an innovative non-laser technique called trans-epidermal pigment release. This method gently lifts and removes tattoo ink from the skin, working on all ink colors and skin types while minimizing the risk of scarring and promoting healthier skin. With over 8,000 successful treatments completed worldwide, Tattoo Away has proven to be a trusted leader in tattoo removal. So whether you're considering removal, revision, or cover-up, visit tattooaway.com to find a location near you and schedule a free consultation. On a personal note, I'm currently undergoing the tattoo removal process with a tattoo on my leg that I've had. For years, I've lived with this tattoo. It's a gang tattoo, and it's kept me from wearing shorts because of the affiliation. It put my life at risk, so I made the decision, and with Tattoo Away, it's been incredible. The process has been smoother than I even imagined. To be honest, the pain is virtually non-existent in some areas, and in some spots where I did feel something, it was far less painful than getting the tattoo in the first place. The full session for my leg took just about an hour. About 2 more sessions, I'll be completely done and my tattoo will be removed. The professionalism of Tattoo Away is awesome. They answered every question that I had, went over and beyond to help me prepare and even continue to support me through the healing process. So, huge thank you to Tattoo Away for your partnership and your mission. If you're interested in learning more or want me to personally connect you with them, feel free to email me at carlosvasquez@howtobattle.com. I'm happy to help, or you can visit their website at tattooaway.com for more details. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the episode. Joe Reed. So something came to me the other day, and I wanted to ask you your perspective on it. I heard it. It was a saying, and it was the greatest battle that we face in life is the battle within ourselves. What does that mean to you when you hear that?
Well, that's interesting. It's probably has a lot to do with what I was just talking about before we started recording. Mm-hmm. My parents, I met with them on Thanksgiving, and my pops was, he was commenting, about when is it going to be enough? Like, what's the finish line, And I think that's a battle. I think the battle with myself is that, growing up poor and, struggling and not even realizing how much I was struggling until I'd see how other families lived, and right. Being homeless a lot and dealing with addiction and everything growing up, it made me, it's still, even at 46, it's made me paranoid that somehow, depending on the day, I either think that everyone's trying to take everything that I have, that I work for, I'm constantly wondering, who's coming around the corner to take everything I have that would ultimately take from my family and my family's family. Or other days I'm still running away from the kid that I was when I feel like it wasn't until a therapist of all things pointed out that I have imposter syndrome, and and I'm running away from that kid that was broke and that got made fun of because I didn't have a lot, and right. So I think that those are 2 battles I think I fight every day.
Yeah.
It's or the idea that I have an amazing wife at home that she doesn't see me as much as she would if I worked a 9 to 5, but she's very understanding and I'm blessed, but that's yeah. You start to wonder am I really focusing on the right areas of life? Because yeah. I'm gone 12, 13 hours a day, 6 days a week, and but I'm doing it for her. So it's kind of, so those are all kind of internal battles that yeah. I think I deal with,
Yeah, it's very similar, as you were saying that, many of the things that I experienced too. I feeling like I'm going to lose it all in prison. I was talking to my friend the other day. It was something that he identified that really stuck with me, is that in prison, you never get attached to anything because you really don't own anything.
Yeah.
You get so used to having something or setting your cell up in a way where you feel comfortable finally, and then they come in and take it or tear it down or fuck with you. And so I have that mentality still. And it's every day I feel like I have to stay on my grind, I have to keep working hard because like you said, somebody or something's going to try to take it away. So
yep.
That's a deep thing that I feel like you and I have connected on a really deeper level, and we never even met each other until this day today.
Yeah.
but there was something there, and I don't know much about you besides our quick exchange over Instagram and just texting, but I know I know that there's a lot of similarities between us, and whether it's our upbringing or how we look at life now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, what did they say? Like birds of a feather.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like when I listened to that episode, just like you, I listen to a bunch of, self-help stuff. Like, I tell a lot of people, like, what you put in your head is what you put out into the world, and, but when I listened to your episode, it was like, everything from like, I lived in a car for a while when I was a kid. I had to fight for everything. I started selling dope young. Didn't know anything about the dope game, and thank God, like, that didn't suck me in for a very long period of time. And then, I like to joke that like graffiti kind of saved my life because, it was like I was a white kid growing up in like an area where, you had to be extra tough because, you know what I mean? You had to kind of like earn your keep, you know what I mean? And so, then when I heard your story, I was like, man, like the idea that I didn't end up in prison, the idea that, shit, anything can happen, like, you know what I mean? But, it actually surprises me. Yeah. Like every time I get, I have to pull like a background check on myself for something related to the industry I'm in or something. It's so weird. It's almost like when you're not doing anything wrong and a cop's behind you, but you're still worried. You know what I mean? It's like I pull that up and I'm looking for something like, oh, what's on my record? Knowing that nothing should be there. Yeah. It's like, I don't know how I avoided God, the grace of God, like I didn't end up in prison. So it's like it very easily, I could be interviewing you right now because you heard an episode about me being in prison because there's probably a lot of similarities, you know what I mean, in our story. So I think that's why, like, I had to reach out, like, hey, I'm gonna reach out to this dude because it's like really, it was a good listen, you know what I mean? So, for sure.
And where do you think your like imposter syndrome comes from?
I don't know. I didn't even know that term existed until I got sober in 2019. I was like a whiskey drinker for years and just turned into sort of a degenerate in Vegas, and I was talking to the guy that ultimately, like, I guess you would call him my sponsor. He never really was my official sponsor, but he kind of helped me get sober. He's happened to be a therapist, and he said, your problem is you have imposter syndrome, you know what I mean? And so I didn't know what that was, and I honestly think it's because I don't feel any different than anybody. Like, if anything, like, I don't like to use the word humble because I don't think any less of anybody, like, than anybody either, but I just feel like I'm just a normal dude that, the secret sauce has always been I just outwork everybody. It's not because I'm smarter. I have an education, but I feel like I'm probably a solid 9th grade education if I really looked at it. Sometimes less depending if I'm helping my stepkids with homework or not. But I just think that, there's a lot. I have a lot more than a lot of people that I view as like probably a lot smarter than me. So that's probably what causes the imposter syndrome. Yeah. I feel like, when I like consult for people that I feel like should be a lot further along than me, it kind of makes me wonder why they're not further along and why they need my help. But then at the end of the day, I think it's the work ethic, honestly. Yeah. Like I'm willing to drive myself into the ground, even though I don't have to, because I still, again, I think it goes back to me running away from that kid that I was growing up, and so that's probably what causes that,
Talk about the work you do, now and maybe even leading up to this. Like, how did you get into the work you do?
So, I do a bunch of stuff now, but I guess to kind of, give a brief but detailed as possible explanation of what I do is that, I worked in retail for a long time, and I had a son really young. I had my son when I was 17, and so I kind of like, I don't want to say that I completely dropped all my bad habits when I had my son, but for the most part, I was a lot more responsible, and so I got into retail. I was really good at sales. Looking back, I probably should have got into high ticket sales because I realized I was really great at I was like a driving force in retail. And there came a point where I needed to like learn a trade or learn something else outside of that. So I left traditional retail. I got into optometry, and I was in optometry for 11 months, and I got sick, and I got laid off coincidentally. Instead of like them like giving me time off to heal, I wasn't past my probation period. And so they laid me off, and I knew, I was like, holy shit, I had just recently gone through a cordial divorce. I had my son full time. I had a house and, car payment. Now, I have like $11,000, I think it was like $14,000 total to like live off of until I figured out treatment, insurance, all this other shit, right? And so my adopted parents, some people that I honestly believe I'm probably not in prison because of them, honestly, because they taught me like how to work hard and whatnot. They've been growing cannabis for a long time. And so they said, well, you're a pretty smart guy. Why don't you open a delivery service or a dispensary? And I didn't even know there were cannabis delivery services. I was like, what do you mean, like an ice cream truck? Like, I don't even understand. And so they got me started in cannabis with a delivery service out of Redlands, California. And I knew nothing about it, but I knew a guy that delivered, a buddy of mine I grew up with that was, we caused a lot of trouble when we were younger. He was a delivery driver for a cannabis company. And so he said, hey, you're smarter than my boss. So it's like, you can, I know weed and you know business, know. So then we jumped in, started delivery service, and then, I struggled for a long time. I ended up I lost the house. I was like 4 months, at one point, I don't know how they didn't track down my car. I was like 4 months behind one time. I was parking it like a mile away from my house. It was crazy. Wow. And I struggled, got through treatment. Thankfully, that wasn't as bad as like you see on like TV or like other people go through. Got through treatment and decided to go back to work, and I went back to work for 3 days, and then realized when I was at the job that like, corporate America had already kind of shit on me. And it just bothered me that now I have another boss, you know what I mean? And so I was like, I went on my lunch break after this, like, I call her like a Karen, had like bitched at me about procedures or something. And I went and checked like what we had done for the day, and I calculated it, and I'd already made like $100 profit that day. It's like a year into opening the business. And I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather live in my car than keep this job. And I didn't even go back into work. I just called in and said like, yo, cancel my appointments the rest of the day. I quit. And she's like, you'll never work in the industry again. I was like, well, cool. Like, burn the boats, right? Like, fuck it, I'm out. Like, you know what I mean? And so I left and just went, I just went on the grind. And now, fast forward now, my cannabis delivery company is 15 years old. Pretty stable company. I mean, just our regulars alone pay the bills. We have, second generation people ordering from us. We've now helped or partnered with another close to 60 delivery services. We do cannabis wholesale distribution. We do a little bit of manufacturing that we have partners with. We have a in-house cultivation. Multiple facilities for, anything from like a showroom where you can come and pick product, drop your product off to be sold, like different things like that. Yeah. But with cannabis, oddly enough, has helped me get into, when you say the work that I do, what cannabis has never, and this is, I got to be careful saying this because of what I do in cannabis, like it's never been my passion. Like I'm not a weed head, like I'm not a smoker. Yeah. And so, but I love what cannabis can do for people, like on the health side of things, but it's never been something, not even through my treatment that I use cannabis. Because back then, I probably would now if I got sick, but back then I just thought it was bullshit. Okay. Yeah. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah, okay. No, absolutely, yeah.
So I thought it was just bullshit. I thought people just use that as an excuse to like smoke weed when they're sick. So, so cannabis has been good, and we've helped a lot of people. But I personally got sober off of alcohol. I was a big drinker for years. Yeah. Like I hit it pretty well when I started making more money. I was able to kind of manage my habit because if I didn't want to drink and drive, I'd call a car service or an Uber. And I remember one day I racked up like 9 Uber rides in one day in Vegas, just bar hopping. Like people would say like, hey, I'm over here, like come over. Okay, I'm there, and then like I got this like gold medallion thing with Uber that day. I thought it was so cool, like damn, I Uber so much today. And so I became like a degenerate, and I joked that if I moved to Vegas to help start a dispensary in Vegas in 2015, and then it spiraled out of control, pretty quickly. But in 2019, I got sober, and after I got sober, I realized that, the traditional AA wasn't going to work for me, but helping people get sober became kind of a thing, and especially people that like, didn't want to go through the traditional anonymous like program. So then we started something called Raised by Wolves, like myself and a few people. And now we help people, with like holistic, like the holistic approach to like helping people in recovery, and we've helped over 200 people get in the programs, family members as well. And and that's what I'm more passionate about. Like, but it's cool that I've been able to take, oddly enough, cannabis and help fund that. Scholarships, co-pays for people, getting people in the programs and stuff like that. And so it's pretty cool, you know. And then just to, I know this is a long-winded answer, you know what I mean? But you know, we opened a what's called a kava bar. You know, kava is an alternative to alcohol that doesn't impair you. So we opened what a lot of people refer to as like a sober bar. So it has everything, all the amenities of a bar, but there's no alcohol. It looks like a bar. You walk in there, you know, people walk in all the time like, well, what do you have on tap? What do you have for wines? And we're like, we don't serve alcohol. So we have everything from like a CBD, different types of teas, ashwagandha, cacao, kava, and it's just, we've created a nice like following, like of regulars that are like all sober, but they still want the, you know, they still want the interaction with people, that just not get drunk doing it. So it's kind of a safe haven. So it kind of ties into what we do with Raised by Wolves, you know. And so that, I took the scenic route getting there, but that's kind of everything. That's, for the most part, that's what we're doing. There's some other stuff I do, but it's not, you know, it won't keep anyone's attention on this podcast.
No, I mean, it's interesting because I didn't know all that about you, and but it makes sense that would be your passion, right? To help people, and especially since you've you know, struggled with your own overcoming of addictions. Would you say that like your addiction was your biggest battle, or what do you think your biggest battle in life was?
I you know, it's weird because I didn't realize how much that addiction to alcohol had really hindered me, because I controlled it pretty well during the grind time of my business. I was more, I would say, a binge drinker up until I started getting a little bit of money, and I was able to just kind of like, you know, start taking a lot of my meetings at bars and shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, let's meet at Lazy Dog at lunch, and then I'd be drinking at lunch. You know what I mean? Let's meet at Top Golf, then I ring up a $800 tab. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And so it's definitely, you know, on one hand, I want to say that was a tough battle, and on the other hand, the odd thing is that I took my last drink in November 2019, and even the bartender that poured that, because oddly enough, I decided to get sober, but I showed up to the bar, but I had a routine there where they'd like pour me a shot of Jameson. So they poured me a shot of Jameson, and I took that shot, even after I told myself I wasn't going to drink anymore. But in my mind, it was like a ceremonial, like, this is going to be my last shot. Not really thinking that would really be my last shot, maybe. And that was the last time I drank. And that was in November 2019. And I was with my sister there, and I remember she still talks about that because she's trying to overcome her own shit herself, you know what I mean? And so she's like, it's crazy how you could just take that last shot and still not drink. And it's not that I don't think about it. We all have shitty days, you know what I mean? But I just think about what's going to happen afterwards. So so that was my biggest battle. But I think even bigger than that, it's been overcoming this, you know, like you mentioned, imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? Just, you know, depending on the day or the time of day, I'm like, I'm the shit. I can literally overcome anything, whether it be like a flat tire where I'm too stubborn to call AAA. I'm like, I'm not going to call fucking AAA. Like, I know how to fix a tire, even though I got roadside through Mercedes and fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to do this myself. Or, you know, just, you know, I think I can conquer. I can pretty much accomplish anything. And then there's other days where I'm just like, I need to like slow my ass down because I'm only one person. There's only 24 hours in a day. That's probably the battle you mentioned earlier. The battle inside my own head is probably where that is. I woke up this morning and my wife wasn't feeling good last night, so she slept in another room. And I was like, man, like, it sucks not waking up to her. But then it also sucks. I start getting in my own head as I'm making coffee. Like, it also sucks that I'm hardly home. Well, damn, this sucks. I got to slow things down. And then I'm on my way here and there people are like throwing projects at me. Like, hey man, like, we need to meet, like, I want to tie in with you with this and that. And those are all opportunities that, you know, that I've been pretty good at, like, weeding out the bad ones. So I'm like, these are all going to benefit the company, which ultimately benefits me financially. That's a fucking battle. Like, where do you, like, turn it off at? You know what I mean? Like, and that's probably even worse than the damn alcohol addiction. The addiction to work, maybe.
It's like the entrepreneur's journey. And I think that, honestly, because I go through that this morning, same situation. Like, I'm waking up in the morning, doing my routine, and I'm just putting out fires from the gate.
Yep.
Issues with the business, but also issues outside of the business with other people, like family members and friends that they created, that when I got out of prison, that I kind of found my way involved in, because that's one thing I would say about success and just accomplishing things is I bet you start to take on other people's responsibilities because you're a go-to now. Yeah. This is a problem solver. This guy did all this, so I need help with this, or I need help with that, or you're helping me with this. And it's like, so I was same situation, and I remember I was on my way to the gym, and I was just like frustrated, and I was like, kind of feeling sorry for myself. Like, dude, I just got out of prison 3 years, 5 months ago. Why should I be taking on all these other people's problems that I didn't create? Like, if anything, should be asking. I was going through this in my head, but then I told myself, like, stop fucking bitching. You asked for this. When you were sitting in that cell and you wanted all this, this is what comes with it. And the journey that we're on, like trying to build a company and then maintain our families and all that. I sometimes I complain about it, but then I sometimes say, I kind of need that to feel alive. You know?
It's it becomes your purpose.
Yeah.
That is kind of crazy, man. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, as you were saying it, like I was literally playing multiple scenarios, because 5 minutes before actually probably right when you walked up today, I have a family member that literally was complaining to me about not letting her know that I was it's a long story, but basically I flaked on her on purpose, because I was like, I don't need to hear her shit. I'm out here to be focused. I can't sit down even for 10 minutes to hear her shit today. She's good. And then she sees a picture on the good old social media that I was in Vegas. I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm so hurt that like you never want to spend time out here. Long story short, I blocked her last night so I could fucking go to sleep. And I made a joke, which is pretty weird. The timing is weird. I told my wife, it's literally going to take me fucking going to prison to like have an excuse not to get back to people. I either have to be dead or in jail, because that's a good excuse not to hit people up. Oh fuck, I was down. But like I obviously don't want to do that. But so then she's arguing with me, blowing me up last night. I would have never went to sleep if I'd let it keep going. And I blocked her. I unblocked her on the way here, and I texted her and I said, okay, are we done fighting? And then she's just like, whatever, it's always Joe's way or no way, right? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I literally have financed, like, your whole Christmas, you know? Yeah. So, through all of it, she says, hey, would you mind sending me $100 for dog food? I'm like, you literally told me to fuck off. You never want to talk to me again, like, less than 24 hours ago. Yeah. But again, like, that's what happens. Where much is given, much is expected, right? Like, you know, like you, like, I've become, like, the problem solver, like, because I'm just good at solving problems, and then people will lean on you for that, and it's for better or for worse. I'd rather be maybe like you, I'd rather be the guy that people can count on to get their shit handled than be the guy that's always asking for help. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, it took me, like I said, it took me like 4 hours to get home from San Diego the other night, because I decided that I could sit and wait for AAA, but you know what I mean? Like, fuck this, I'm a problem solver, I'll just handle it myself. You know what I mean? And then oddly enough, I wake up today with a flat tire, the same tire. You know what I mean? So I was like, whatever, right. I'm driving the other car today. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's weird, man, how life works out, man. And it's hard, it's really hard finding your purpose, because, you know, I don't know how you feel about this, but every time I feel like I've found like a good rhythm and like where my purpose really is taking me, I don't know if it's God's way of like testing you, but it'll completely throw you off course into a whole different direction. Like you think like, okay, cool, I'm going to do this. I'm going to block out this time to do it. And then I don't know if it's God or the devil or how you feel about that whole situation, but it's like God will, like even like this place that we're setting in. I was having so many obstacles, like opening something in LA or buying something in LA, to where I just abandoned the whole idea and said, I need more time than I need another project anyways. People can just take the drive either, to another facility or not buy from us. And then I get a phone call from this guy here, and he says, hey, like, there's an opportunity to buy my place. And I'm like, fuck. Just when I thought I'd have more time, right. Like, you know what I mean, to focus maybe in recovery or something, then it, so it's weird, man, how life works, man.
Yeah, it is, and it's like every day when you're trying to pursue something that you're, creating from the ground up or to explore new things, you have to make day-to-day decisions. What like helps you, considering the imposter syndrome, when you have those days, because I have them too, same situation, or days when you feel on top of the world. Like, what helps you to make decisions when, because you have to make big decisions. And I say this because a lot of young people listen to this podcast, and I feel when I mentor them, they have these questions. Like, how do you make smart decisions? And is there even a smart decision, or is there just a decision and then you learn from it? So from you and just your experience, like, what helps you to do that? Like,
Man, I don't even know now if I'm making smart decisions, man. Like, that's so crazy. Like, I get nervous every time somebody, whether it's recovery or business,
yeah.
even though I seem to have a knack for helping people in both areas, like, I even second guess myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if this is a good answer or not, but like, sometimes I still wake up. I think this is part of the imposter syndrome. And I still wake up in the morning sometimes, and I'm sitting drinking coffee. And if my wife is gone, I have time to sit there. Sometimes when my wife will sleep in, because it's pretty early in the morning, I'm sitting there and I'll drink coffee and I'll look around my house and I'm like, this is cool, but, like, why the hell, like, why do I deserve this? Like, you know what I mean? And so I think I've now gotten to a point in my life where I try at least to base every decision I make on, like, how many people this is going to impact. Like, for instance, like this place right here, I had already, like, pulled the trigger on buying it, but then I realized, because there was already employees that were here already, I had pulled the trigger on it, and then I met and I was kind of second guessing myself the first day I walked through this place. Like, why did I do this? Like, this is money I could have deployed into somewhere else. But then there's employees here that seem to be really committed to the industry, committed to obviously paying their bills. And then I realized, well, worst case scenario, I know how to put the place together, and these guys will benefit from it. Like, you know what I mean? They'll be able to continue paying their rent, helping their kids, stuff like that. And I try to just base every decision on that. And if it takes away from my peace, or really, like, hurts somebody that I care about, like, or will put them out, like, I try to steer away from it, even if it seems like it would be a good financial decision.
Yeah.
And then really at the end of the day, because you do have a lot of youth that watch this, like, I'm like really, really, really big on, like, anytime I can get in the head of, like, a kid, like, or have any personal time with kids, or like a kid, especially somebody that's kind of that's not getting that direction at home. You and I both can relate to this. It's like when you don't have somebody there, a strong figure or figures there in your life, like, actually explaining to you the shit that's important in life. Everything from, like, saving money, why it's important to save money, like, what your life's going to look like if you hang out with the dumb fucks, you know what I mean? Everything, like, that's, I mean, I try to really instill that, like, do everything based on not just how you're going to feel, but I guess the easiest way to put it is your actions are going to, there's going to be consequences that other people are going to deal with. Addiction affects the whole family. You join a gang, you start selling dope, that affects the whole family. Like, I mean, everything that you do, even at a young age, affects the family. And, and then unless you're like a youth or just somebody that just really doesn't give a shit, then there's no talking to those people, period.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's, I mean, again, like, I'm like long-winded as hell today, but, like, you know what I mean? That's kind of like, that's how I look at it. It's just, who's it going to affect making this decision?
No, that's a beautiful response, and I think it's so important, and it's kind of how I make decisions in life, is like thinking about the big picture of, it may be beneficial for me to make this decision personally or for the business, but how is it going to affect others? Always thinking like that is a great kind of framework on making decisions. And I think that at a young age, had I thought about that, how, like, my actions were going to affect my mom, how we're going to affect my other family members, the people, my community, whatever. Had I had enough sense, I probably wouldn't have did what I did. But I didn't have the sense back then, and I didn't care, and I didn't love myself, so I didn't love anybody else. So I took all these, made all these bad decisions and went down this path, and really blessed to be where I'm at today. And I feel like that you, in a sense, feel blessed to be where you're at today.
I do. I'm very thankful. Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously, I've done the work. Even along the way, I've had a team. Like in the case with my businesses and partners, I have a team. But I feel blessed. Like when I met my wife, I mean, even to go back a little further, like my mom, bless her soul, and I've forgiven her, you know what I mean? Like, but my mom was not, I mean, she was never going to win Mother of the Year. You know what I mean? Not for a second. I mean, and then my biological dad, Pat, he was oddly enough, like he was a police officer. So my mom, my dad dies 3 months later. She marries a meth cook. My mom marries a guy that's cooking in a trailer. Wow. We live in a single wide trailer, and the kitchen becomes the lab, you know what I mean? Which I still think is why we all have ADHD, you know what I mean, as adults. And so, I had to come from that to fast forward to where I meet my wife, and I fell in love with her before I really knew her full. I mean, it was like really one of those love at first sight situations, because I thought I was going to be a serial bachelor. I had even like kind of planned my life around this sober new version of me. If I want company, I'll just open the Rolodex kind of deal. You know what I mean? But the thing is I met my wife, fell in love with her, and it's weird how the universe or God kind of puts people in your lives, because I fell in love with her, and she was very closed off to me at first, like about her personal life. And then, I knew that she was sober when I met her. I met her at my kava place, And that night that I met her, like probably an hour after I met her, I literally was messaging these other girls I was talking to and saying, like, it's unfair for me to continue talking to you because I'm seeing somebody, and I barely knew this girl's name. Wow. But really where I'm going with this is that, she had her kids taken away. And she had struggled. Like, she's always a good person, always worked hard. She was like the breadwinner in the relationship, and she'd always struggled. And she came out of the other side of addiction, and she was really, really working hard on getting her kids back. So it's weird that the world put me in her life, understanding what it's like to be her kids. And so I approached it as like, I told her very early on, I said, even if because we decided to become friends first, because she was going through her stuff and fighting the DUI case and doing all the stuff that's been on my podcast, so I'm not putting it out there. You know? But she was fighting all this stuff, and I didn't know that. I just knew that I liked this girl and I wanted to hang out with her. But knowing that, I told her very early on, I said, even if we don't end up in a relationship, like, I'm going to help you get your kids back, and I'm going to help you get situated, because I know what it's like to be those kids, And thank God and my work ethic that, like, I'm even in a position to say that and not be one of these clowns that, like, promises women, like, everything and don't deliver on anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And 3 years later, being married 3 years later, when she said, "You're a wonderful husband," I go, "I try." And she goes, "What do you mean try? Like you are a fucking wonderful guy." Like, but but there's the other side of that coin, like, because she's been in, like, some of my staff meetings where I'm, like, not in the best place. And I'm, like, yelling about everything, and she's like, "Thank God you're soft with me, because I do not want to ever work for you." So it's like, but I guess that's the whole, like, I work my ass off for reasons like that. Yeah. I literally could live it. I mean, and I guarantee, because of your prison time, if this place had a TV in it and a bed and a shower in there, I could live in this room and be content. You know what I mean? It's like, cool, I got access to downtown quick, my car's right in the back, I'd be fine. So when I look around my house, I have a beautiful pool I've been in twice in 3 years, because I don't need all that shit. But if it means that those kids are comfortable, they're in a good school, my wife is comfortable all day, I'm good. Like, you know what I mean? I'll just continue busting my ass. Like, these are some shitty apartments upstairs. Yeah, I legitimately thought about renting one just so I have a place there. My wife comes here and was like, "Are you crazy? You're gonna get killed." I go, "I grew up in fucking Muscoy. This is not. I mean, this is cute. I'll lock the door, go to sleep. I'm fine. You know what I mean?" But she didn't come from that world. You know what I mean? So she's like, "You're crazy." So, but again, man, I'm sorry if I get off track a little bit. That's a beautiful thing about, like, a podcast, is it's just so, like, raw, real. And that's what I love. It's unscripted. Like, we really didn't have much time to even get to know each other, like, in our family or anything, our business. And I think that the discovery of that is just making me come to the realization that you're a good man. And it's very rare to run into good men. And I get that now, like, because it's such a selfless act to be like, I want to create great life. I want to create companies to help others in some way, like, to create a better life. Like you said, I would fucking sleep anywhere, grind it out. I always think, I have those thoughts too, like,
if I just like was alone and had nobody and just decided to just get up and leave and never look back, and it was just all about me focusing on me, I would do that. I'd be like, probably just rent like a room and just grind and work my way. But then I think about that and I find a little bit of freedom when I think about that, like almost a feeling of that might be pretty cool. But then when I think about my life and everybody that's important to me and where I want to go, I'm like, but I would miss, that's not my purpose. I would miss that, you know?
No, that's a battle. What you're saying there,
yeah.
This is crazy. My wife thinks I'm nuts every time I say this. Like, you follow anybody on social media that like they travel around the country and they live out of their car?
Yeah.
Man, that shit seems so free to me.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like I'm like, man, I could literally shower at gyms, have like a Subaru, because those are good for long miles.
Right.
Travel around, and that actually like, or the tiny homes. I'm like, man, like how easy would the maintenance be if I had a tiny home on like property?
Yeah.
That would be crazy easy. I wouldn't have to worry about the damn pool guy, the fucking maintenance guy, the maid, like whatever else, like, you know, the amenities. And but I appreciate the good man statement. Like, it's funny. And depending on who watches this, like every, you know, what I just posted something on social media the other day that made a lot of sense to me. It says, in order for you to I don't know whose quote it was, but it was in order for you to lead the orchestra, you have to be willing to turn your back on the crowd. And I just love that, because depending on who's telling the story, and I know you've probably heard this, is you're either the villain or the valor, right? Like you're either the hero in the story or you're the villain.
Yeah.
And like there's people that, because I've had to make very stoic decisions in business or in life, that they'll watch this or anything else I've ever done, or just run into me in the street, or like just talk about me, and I'm like the worst fucking person. Like I don't deserve any of this. But when you peel back the onion, it's me really at a certain point in my life having to make decisions that's based on what's best for my immediate circle, my family. And I mean, I just recently lost a friendship with somebody that I've been friends with for 30 years. He's a godfather of my son. 30 years because of a decision that it was a misunderstanding that turned into something horrible. And like the conversation that I had with him was just crazy. We'll take out all the good that I've done for this person, and because I had to make one decision that was better for my business, which was ultimately better for my family, it just, you know, we just pissed away a whole 30 years of, I mean, whether that becomes like, you know, mended later on is to be said, but it's just crazy. I mean, this guy is like, you know, was one of my best friends for years. So of course you ask this guy, you run into him down the street and ask him, I'm the worst fucking person. I screwed him over completely. You know what I mean? Or not screwed them over, but like had a huge falling out. Where then you ask guys, you know, that I'm currently helping, as of even today, getting a friend of mine into treatment today. I mean, obviously he's going to have great things to say about me. Yeah. You know what I mean? But, and the odd part of that whole story is this guy, I literally got into this same guy that I'm getting in a program right now, I got into a physical altercation like 10 years ago with. You know what I mean? Drinking, of course, was involved. Yeah. And so it's like, you know, I feel like, no matter what, I got a good heart. You know what I mean? Like I had this whole, you know, I had this whole idea of like, I had like $300 in cash on me, which I don't carry cash much anymore in this day and age. I told my wife after some inspiration from some guy on TikTok that he like goes and does stuff for like people, you know what I mean? Kindness of their heart. I said, I'm going to break this $300 into 20s. And for the next 3 days, I'm just going to give people I think needed $20. Well, then I pull up into San Diego. I was at a show in San Diego the other night. This guy, I get out of the car. I never find parking. Like, I don't know how you feel about, I don't know how you feel about God, or, you know what I mean, really like the you know, like, you know, higher power. But I pull up this kava bar I love these guys. I pull up and there's never parking in front of this kava bar ever. I happen to find the spot right by the door. I was like, that's weird. So already I'm going like, whoa, today's my day. You know, I pull up, I get out of the car, go to pay for the meter, and this guy's crying like there. And I go, hey, what's up, man? Like, you know, what are you crying about? What can I do for you, man? What's up, bro? And he's like, dude, somebody just stole my last $14. You know, I'm not going to be able to eat. I don't even have shoes, this and that. And I was like, so I started talking to the guy, and he's just like, I'm sure you got your own problems, bro, this and that. I'm like, well, you know, he didn't ask me for any money, he didn't ask me, hey man, you got $5 or whatever, which he could have, and I'd have given him money. Yeah. But I pull up in a Mercedes, so right off the bat, I would have thought that maybe he would ask me for money.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I go, so what's up, man? What's gonna help you right now? And I said, and I ain't buying you no fucking booze. Like I was like, he's like, no, man, I don't even drink, man. He's like, what about just a soda, man? I was like, all right, cool. So I went and got him. They didn't have soda, but I ended up getting him something else in the cow bar. I ended up walking out, and I was like, dude, what would help you, man? What ideal situation? Like, and he's like, well, $1 million. This and I said, well, $300 help you today? And he was just like, he's like, yeah, man. He's just like, he's all about, you know, if you got a couple bucks, that's cool. But if you don't, and he starts talking around in circles, not looking me in the face. And I said, I gave him $200. And then the guy was like, dude, you might have just saved my life, man. And so I was like, here's the other 100. And now I don't know what he's going to do with that. For all I know, he's going to go shoot dope in the alley. But the idea is that the irony in the whole situation is that, like, you know, like that one act, I'll never probably see that guy again. He was joking. He's like, dude, I'm gonna wash your car. I'm gonna go buy stuff. I was like, dude, don't worry about it. Like, you're good. Yeah. I said, just watch my car. You know what I mean? That's cool. Yeah. Come out like 2 hours later, dude's still there, which is awesome. And he's eating McDonald's. So that made me feel good. That one act right there, like that means more than me. Then something like that would mean more than me than if I had this place currently open right now and I was selling a bunch of cannabis out of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just like what I live for, is shit like that. Yeah. But again, it goes back to the whole, I can do that and then walk down that same street and potentially run into somebody that I had to fire for fucking up, by the way. Yeah. And they're like, you ruined my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? But so it's just crazy how life works, man. Like, yeah,
you're absolutely right. And it just kind of confirms when I say, like, good man, because, you know, people hate God. People hate Jesus. I don't, but I'm saying, like, so how can we expect as men for everybody to like us or view us as good men, even though we are? It's not always going to be that way, because like you said, there's going to be that person that no matter what we've done good for them, that one thing is all they're going to remember. And it wasn't even anything like catastrophic or we didn't rat on them and they ended up going to prison for like 50 years. Yeah. It was like, it could be just saying, no, I can't do this right now. And then all of a sudden you're a piece of crap. I get that. And I think that, you know, acts of kindness and that type of stuff is so valuable. And I had a similar situation too. And, like my office is in Century City and I go to the gym right across. And when I go from one end to the other to go to the gym, there's always a guy out there with a sign. And this is one of the most, like, you know, just expensive areas that you could possibly be in. So there's people just rolling past them and all kind of like nice cars. People have money and he has a sign. And, you know, I was thinking, like, cause I start thinking like about things I've seen on social media about people that do that to make a living off of it, but they really don't need it. Yeah. So all these things, but something compelled me to, the day before, to intentionally go get cash out of the ATM to have, just to give to this guy if I see him again. That forward thinking, like you said, to have the money and to plan that. I mean, that's a beautiful thing, man. And when I saw him and I gave him the money, he was so grateful. I remember he walked back and, like, I was still waiting to go. I look over at him and he just like was like wiping tears away. But he was trying to maintain his composure, but he was just wiping tears. I don't know what he had been through that day. I don't know how many no's or people that passed him or what he was feeling or who he was trying to feed, or maybe he was just happy that he can go get drugs. I don't know. But the fact that, like, the act of giving is really what the important thing is. It's not what happens afterward. It's the fact that you gave. And I think that's an important lesson. Yeah. Yeah.
My wife says that. I was pretty against giving people money for a long time. Because I actually had an experience one time where I used to get my hair cut at the same place in San Bernardino forever. I went to this place, it was like shitty neighborhood, beautiful barbershop, you know? And I'd go there, and this dude came in a wheelchair asking the guys, or the barbers, like, give him money. Dude's give him water or money, whatever. Yeah. I'm leaving, and I walk down the street, just happened to be where I parked. This dude literally, like, rolled up to a truck that was a pretty nice truck, and stood up out of the wheelchair and put the wheelchair in the back and drove away. And after that, I said I'm never giving anybody money. Yeah. So when I met my wife, she had, like, she was driving one time and she rolled down the window and gave somebody like $5 out of the window, this family, a couple. And I was like, you don't know where the money's going. Because I had that, like, there's so many other ways, like, go buy him food. Like, because I would do that all the time. Like, if I was going to drive through and I'd see somebody, like, here's some cheeseburgers or whatever. I had one guy one time throw popcorn back at me, though. That was crazy. I gave him a tin of popcorn, and he, like, threw it on the ground right in front of me.
Wow.
It's like, oh, you obviously you're not hungry.
Yeah.
But my wife said, you know what? It's the act of giving, because, like, I've been there. Where just $5 would have changed my whole day. Because my wife was homeless at one time. She was in shelters, you know what I mean? And, like, she had her daughter at one point in shelters, and thank God that they're young enough to where that didn't impact them too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's just so doing that for that guy, it also reaffirms my belief, because I felt like I was an atheist for a long time too, and not to totally go into that whole world, and then that whole conversation's a completely different episode, but like I felt like I didn't even believe God because of growing up the way that I grew up, or ultimately like we grew up.
Yeah.
Like, I prayed a lot when I was a kid. Like when my mom was getting the shit kicked out of her, like my stepdad was beating the shit out of us. Like, I remember one in particular instance, I don't even remember how old I was, that my stepdad, kicked the shit out of me because I used his masking tape for something. And beat the shit out of me in the living room, and like I couldn't open my mouth to eat, and I remember praying that would stop. And then now having a relationship with God, and definitely not perfect, like I still cuss like a sailor, I was still me, but having that relationship with God is made me really realize that he obviously had me go through that stuff so I can have a testimony, or like that I can relate. So there's hardly anybody I meet going through any shit other than maybe you at prison, like that I can't relate to at some level. Like people will say, well, you never shot dope. Really? I grew up around that shit. I had my own addiction. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's crazy, man, that like, God and ultimately the universe they'll use you as some sort of tool, either for good or bad, no matter how you look at it. You know what I mean? And so it's, I just want to continue to surround myself with people like yourself, and people that are like-minded, even if it might not be in the same, like, I sell cannabis for a living, and you do what you do, and like, we all, my circle is just completely fucking different these days.
Yeah.
If you're taking away from my piece, or like what's best for my family or my circle, like I just will cut your ass out like a cancer now, and I do not care. Like it's just, you have to be like that, to be able to put that good into the world,
Right. I love that, and it reminds me of what you said earlier about work ethic. Just having to do things differently. I mean, what's your work ethic? I know it's like, what does that mean to you, and how do you work in relation to you? I would say like just a person that does a 9 to 5. And I say that because a lot of kids, they may not feel like they're that smart. And you mentioned that always be like, I'm not the smartest guy, but I work hard. And the same with me. Like I got out of prison. I didn't have like all these degrees and accolades and work experience. So it was just all hard
that
work.
Helps you. That actually helps you.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have connections. I didn't even know how to use like social media. I didn't know how to use technology. I had to start over. So it's like, but the working hard is what got me to where I'm at today.
100%, man. I actually admire. You have no idea. Like when I heard your story, looked you up on social media, ultimately seen the book. Like you go to my office. If we were doing this in my office, man, like there's 3 people in my office that have your book. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's like your book is like right there, man. I was just talking yesterday about doing this with one guy. I was like, hey, that book that I read, like, oh, okay, cool. They're familiar. I admire that because, I admire what you do, and like, man, and honestly, like how, like, it's so, because you've been out, what, 3 years, you said? 3 years, 5 months?
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? People don't even understand, like, I feel like I have friends that were down for a while, you know what I mean? It's like, it's obviously their mindset, and you decide. I know your story for the most part, like, you change your mindset even before getting out, but man, it's crazy that I have friends that have been out now for probably some of them like 10 years, and they're just fucking, they won't listen to the fucking thing I say, and they use everything that they don't have as an excuse on why they can't have.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I almost feel like my education like crippled me for a while. And it's like, I'm a firm believer, and I can say this shit because I have education. Like, I'm a firm believer that education the traditional education is actually a hindrance. You know what I mean? Like we just took our my stepson out of school because I'm like, look, ultimately it was my wife and her ex's decision, but I was like a big advocate for it, and I was like, no, fuck this. We're paying a tuition. We're going to pay somebody to teach them at home, like things that actually matter, like how to balance finances, like how to how to interact with people, how to put them in a circle of not people that are just paying tuition, but actually like have the same beliefs, you know what I mean? The same morals, you know what I mean? Because like the education system, like I'll use a perfect example, and I hope she watches this. Like I'm kind of mentoring somebody in Vegas, like, kind of part-time mentoring when I'm there in my kava bar. And it's a 24-year-old gal that makes $120,000 a year at her job. Now, she doesn't do anything that you would think a 24-year-old in Vegas does to make $120,000, but she makes $120,000. But she feels like she's not fulfilling what she should be doing, so she's branching out to start an agency. She works like in the modeling field, like she manages basically. And so she says, Joe, I'm thinking about what do you think, Joe, about taking business classes? And I was just like, okay, from who? She's like, from UNLV. I said, okay, like, how much do you think that professor makes? And she's like, I don't know. I said, let's Google it. Average UNLV professor makes $71,000 a year. I said, you make almost twice what this fucking person is going to be teaching you how to make money makes. Do you really think it's a good idea to go learn from them? You should teach the fucking class. She's like, that's a good point. I said, what are they going to teach you that you can't learn in fucking 30 minutes here with me every week? You know what I mean? And so it's like, the education system or the world, like, is so fucking ass backwards. Like the things that worked in the 60s and 70s, maybe even 80s, don't work anymore. Yeah. It's really guys like you and guys like me, not to like put the spotlight on us, that's really going to be the difference maker for the next generation, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Hopefully help kids prevent getting into shit that we've gotten into, like whether that be addiction, prison, God only knows what. It's going to take the guys. It's funny because I feel like the new suit and tie is tattoos these days. Back in the day, like you think about like the circle of successful people that I not, and when I say success, I'm not talking about just monetarily, but like the people that I hang around with. If you put us all in a room and we were all dressed in like just t-shirts and jeans, you would think it's a fucking biker club, a tattoo shop. Like you don't know what the fuck it is. A fucking rap video, heavy metal video. You don't know. But then it's like these guys are all like movers and shakers. Where like I go to a meeting in San Diego a few weeks ago, and I go in there and the guys that I'm with, I'm the guys that's teaching the meeting. I'm like, well, I should say I'm the one doing the training. But they've never met me in person. They've never even seen me. So I walk in at the time, and I'm not wearing like long sleeve shirts. I'm wearing shorts. Like my legs are completely sleeved up. I'm sleeved up. I have tattoos everywhere but my neck and hands, basically. I go in there, but then the team that I'm with, that's hiring me to go teach their team, or teach another team, they're dressed really conservatively, like they just went and played golf before we got there. So the whole conversation is pointed, and this happens all the time, is pointed towards these guys. They're like, they're asking them all the questions, and I'm just chiming in, and they're kind of half-ass ignoring me, which I didn't really pick up on at first. I was just like, whatever. Then I start like saying, hold on a minute, that's not the case. This is the case. This is what you need to do. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hold on a minute. Like, oh, wait a minute, you're Joe, like kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, because this day and age, it's like there needs to be more men or people in general that have gone through all that shit, gotten the tattoos, both emotionally and physically, and like really, drove over the speed bumps, you know what I mean, in life, to like actually teach, you know what I mean, like, to actually make a difference in this world, and it ain't fucking formal education. And then, and I think honestly, you asked me about work ethic, and I probably just completely fucked that up. But you know what I mean. But it's just a matter about getting up and doing the shit that's uncomfortable long enough to where it becomes comfortable. Like I'm sure. What time do you get up in the morning?
4:30.
4:30?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Lately I've been getting a little bit more sleep, but then I realized, well, I've been going to sleep later, so it doesn't really make a difference. But
I get up at 6, and I was getting up at 5. I try to get up at 5:30, 5:45 in the summer. But man, there's something about my brain that doesn't work right, like when it's still dark outside. And 6 is just starting to like the sun's it's starting to peek over the hill. You know what I mean? So I get up at 6, and recently I've been feeling like, man, that half hour didn't seem like a big deal, but man, getting ahead of the world, at least another half hour is probably a good idea. You know what I mean? Like that's why even when you texted me last night, like I felt like I kind of half-ass answered you because I was like, man, I was dead tired, man. Like I was like, yeah, cool. But yeah, man, it's but yeah, it's doing what is, you know, that everybody talks about. So it's doing what's uncomfortable long enough until it becomes comfortable.
I love that.
You know, determination versus motivation, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, just I just have really just outworked a lot of my peers, and I'm kind of a dumbass like when it comes to like how I even keep track of my bills is crazy. I have like a simple Google spreadsheet on my laptop desktop, and when a bill's paid, I literally go in there and just check it off. And if I don't use that simple method of paying the bills, like then I fuck up. I've had like my cell phone turned off before, and I have the money to pay it. And like, you know what I mean? It's just like,
right.
And so
we're so similar in that way. Like I have a business manager now, but like I would literally forget. Like I would do like all these speaking engagements, working stuff, and I would forget to like invoice for them, and they would follow up like we know we're trying to pay you, and I'm like, oh shit, and I'll go back. Like that's how like focused I am on just continuously growing. Is like I'll do some shit, and then. And this is before. Now I have like people to help. But you're right. Like I think, like if it for me, just I know where my strength is. I know, and that's where I focus. Like I'm not good at finance. I'm not good at like doing all these other things like stock market. So I can be good at that. If like you said, if I wanted to learn that, I could learn it. But I know my lane. I stay in it, and I get people to help in other areas. And I think that's a great lesson for people. And you said it beautifully about the work ethic thing. And I think that's so empowering because it doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, your background, how much you fucked up, if you were a drug addict, if you've been to prison. If you just able to work hard and pursue with that mindset, you can be successful.
100%. Right? Yep. Yeah. And there's another, like I'm really big on quotes, man. My wife and most of the people in my life say I'm like a walking motivational poster. Like, you know, the saying that I've really used a lot recently because this year I've helped a lot of startups like in this industry. And I said, you know, like I had a gal the other day that, you know, she called me like 4 days into her business being open. And she was like, I just want to know when I'm going to start making money. And I go, I know you're smart enough to slow your thoughts down and understand what you just said. Like you can't fucking plant a seed and dig it up every hour waiting for the tree to grow. You know what I'm saying? You planted a seed. Like, you know what I mean? And she's just like, well, I say, what did you do in sales the last 4 days? And she told me, and I was like, you are blessed that I've kind of dummy-proofed this for you. Like, I have 15 years of experience. You've technically are going to if you continue on this trajectory, you're going to turn a profit in 45 days. And she used to be in hair before that. I said, when you open a salon, when do you expect to make money? Well, I make money as soon as I cut hair. No, you don't. How much did it cost you to open the fucking salon? Yeah. And she's like, oh, that's right. You know, she's like, well, I feel better. And she like literally was so emotional after that. She's like, oh my God, you really have set me up. And I was like, the fuck do you think we did the last 4 months? But that's experience. I would say, I know you didn't ask the question, but it's such an important statement that it is very, very important to take advice from the right people. You know what I mean? Because like, you know, there is so many fake gurus out there right now that ain't doing shit. Yeah. I mean, you can literally buy a course on anything from somebody that literally is successful selling courses. Like, you know what I mean? That's why it was like, I was so hesitant for so long of doing like, you know, virtual training myself. Yeah. Because I'm like, dude, I could be perceived as just some idiot that is out there selling courses. But then I have the resume to back it up. So there, I started feeling a little bit better about it. You know what I mean? But man, I'm telling you, man, like, we're very close to a big paradigm shift in the world. Yeah. Because what has traditionally been told that will work for you is not working anymore. You know what I mean? It's like your 9 to 5 doesn't even pay your bills. Like the average, what did they say? The average household has, you know, three and a half incomes or something like that. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. That means like people are working and then continuing to work after their normal job. It's like, that's crazy. Where years ago, that doesn't seem that long ago, like if the husband went to work and had a decent job, like the bills were all paid. Yeah. But you know, your raises aren't even keeping up with inflation anymore. Your salaries that you start at don't even like pay your bills. Like, you know what I mean? And you come out of college not only with debt, and if you're lucky enough to defer the college debt, you still can't pay your bills. You know what I mean? And so it's like there's now I think you might not remember this because you were on vacation for so long, but like there was like this huge like boom, like, you know, like years ago, I'd say like 15 plus years ago, there was this huge boom with like startup home-based businesses. they kind of fizzled out because most of them were like pyramid schemes and stuff like that. And I think what's happening now, and you know, is that there's a huge boom with like online training, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think my personal opinion, I could be completely wrong here, is that when that starts to fizzle out, when people start falling off, these like gurus start to fall off the map, I think the real ones that have taken the time to develop training to help people with startups and growing their businesses in different areas that, you know, whether that be cannabis or other businesses or crossover type deals. Like I feel like now I can probably help any startup just because I understand how to do it. I understand the formula. I think that when all these course creators like kind of fall off and are proven that they're not really good at what they say they are, I think what's going to happen is that the educational system will almost have to. I mean, private schools will start getting emptied out. I think people will start realizing like, well, look, you got a guy like Joe that talks very poorly about public education, even though he's educated, and I'm a small guy compared to some of these bigger guys that are. I mean, look at Brad Lee. That's the connection between us, like meeting. In a weird way, but like, what did he drop out, like 10th grade or something like that?
Yeah.
He's proof himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That, you know, it's like, and so, man, like for what you're doing, man, it's crazy to say this because I've been doing this 15 years and I've built in a lot of people's eyes a successful business or businesses, but like I admire what you're doing even more than what I'm currently doing, spending 60 hours a week doing myself. You know what I mean? It's like, I wish I had time. I get asked to speak in front of people all the time. Well, a lot more before than even now, but like I'm like, man, I have commitments, and you know what I mean, I wish I could do that, you know. And I spoke to the junior achievers in Vegas, and they asked me back, and I was like, oh, you wanted me back because I'd slipped up and cussed a few times, and I was like, they're not asking me back, and they were like, no, the parents like loved you because you were like real with them, like you were real with these kids, you know what I mean. I was like, shit, maybe I should do that, but where am I gonna find the time, you know?
Yeah.
So again, like that's just me going off on my caffeinated rant right there. You know.
Yeah, I wake up sometimes in the morning and I just like can't believe that this is my life, honestly, and I'm just so grateful that, I mean, before I even open my eyes, it's just gratitude going on in my head, and I haven't even started my day. I am grateful for the struggles and to be able to do what I feel like I was put on this earth to do. And just getting confirmation from people on that. I mean, I feel like just that's one of the greatest things is when I talk to people afterward that I've spoken to or do trainings with, that they're like that like was so like helpful for them to become better in life.
Yeah.
And so when you hear that enough, you realize, okay, well maybe I am doing something right. Maybe I am on the right path. And
so much, man. You're the proof that you know you could literally overcome anything and become something. Like you're the proof. Like you're the shit that I literally talk about to everybody. Anybody that's willing to listen and not like discard what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like is you know, you probably even more than me, you hear every excuse in the world on why you can't do something.
Right.
And I hate when someone texts me and says like I'm trying. And I'm like, dude, you need to turn that shit into doing. Like that trying word, I just told my stepbrother yesterday. I was like, you notice I never use the word trying? Because you're either doing or you're not doing. And it's like just changing those little mindsets and then overcoming that shit. Like, you know, you and other people that I know I've used as examples. Like, you know, like, look, man, if this guy could be, you know, literally in prison, blocked off from the world for years, and then come out, change things around, and actually be, a good force in the world. I mean, like, I watch videos you post, and I'm like, you either just pick things up like a damn sponge very quickly on how to have changed your life, or like you just had, this is just a knack for you, just knowing like the right way of doing things. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you had like somebody, it was like a teenager asked you a question about like, I think it was overcoming or like staying motivated, I think. You just posted that, and I'm just like, that's crazy. Like, I've been in business for 15 years, and I'd say 6 or 7, 8, 10 years in the business, I might not even have given that good of an answer in what I think, in my opinion, was the correct answer. You know what I mean? And you come out of prison, that the worst possible situation that anybody could be in, minus death, and then now like you're putting so much good into the world, man. It's like crazy. Like, it's like, you know, there needs to be definitely more people like you in the world, especially with people like, you know, in prison, you know what I mean? Because obviously, as you know, way more than I do, people come out and they have no clue what to do with their life or what direction to go in, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, man. And I just wanted to get your definition of something. And what is your definition of success?
Fuck. I don't know, man. If you ask me like different stages in my adult life, if you asked me that, it would have been different. I think, you know, if I go back to when I was working, you know, I was working for Vans, and I thought success was like, you know, just having a good career and like just, you know, paying my bills, you know, having like a decent house in a decent neighborhood with, you know, my son going to a decent school. And I think when I started my business, obviously, you know, I started the business in cannabis was like this whole, people would refer to it as like printing money at the time. So I thought the success was like having a safe full of cash, you know what I mean? And just kind of living life on my own terms. And then I'd say even prior to meeting my wife, success was like, you know, stacking a bunch of money to be able to help my son if he has kids and, you know, kind of just, you know, work. I literally had planned at one point of just working my ass off as many hours in a day that I could fill work in that, and then stacking as much money as possible and assets as possible to where, you know, whether it's my nieces or my sister or anything, were just good if anything happened to me. But I'd say the best, most current answer is just inner peace. Like, you know, and if that means finances, unfortunately, are attached to that a lot of times because everything requires some sort of financing these days. I'd say, you know, success to me is, you know, is waking up every day with as little anxiety as possible, knowing that like you're not a shithead, you're putting good into the world, and then hopefully there's a dollar sign that's attached to that somewhere enough to where you're not hurting people to get it, and you're actually helping people with that, you know, and that's success. Is, I guess, just inner peace, man. And I don't think there's a finish line, man. Like, honestly, I'm starting to really believe that. I think that everyone's chasing this imaginary finish line. Everybody thinks that they're going to get to a certain point in life and they're going to be successful finally, or they're going to be done, or I don't know. But like, I don't think that we ever, as humans, especially people that are programmed like us, ever really are going to really feel fulfilled. You know what I mean? Because if I leave cannabis tomorrow, all I'm going to do is throw my energy, maybe not as much, but I'm going to throw a lot of energy into probably recovery or something else that, you know what I mean, puts good into the world, secures a future for my family. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's kind of a, you know, it's weird how life works, man. At 46, I think I look at the world completely different than I did even at 36. You know, it's weird how that works. Yeah. Like we become that wise old man, right? That's on the fucking porch everybody talks about. You know what I mean? He's like you know, if it's in the hood, he's like the OG that has every friggin' story about getting stabbed that didn't happen or whatever. Right. And then if you're like the successful guy, you're just like, I built all of this. You know what I mean? So it's weird how that works, you know?
I like that. Very well said. And I think it's true. Like success, our definition of success changes in time as we grow and develop. And I truly believe also that there is no like end point. I always tell people like I'll never retire, you know, like people are like, I can't wait to retire. It's like, I don't even think about that because even if I change lines of work, I'm going to find something else to give my energy to. So for me, it's the same situation. Like it just changes. And yeah, I think that's a good thing for people to know that maybe what they feel is success right now, pursue that. Maybe that's what gets you up in the morning to go do the work. If you're chasing money or whatever it is. But, you know, also understand that it's going to change as you change and grow. So I love that, man.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a moving target, man.
Yeah.
I think everything we do is a moving target. I don't know when, you know, it's hard, man. If you're a productive person in anything, it's really hard for you to find that balance. It's like, I still stress, I know that I'll never find it. Like, I'll never really find it. You know, because I don't have a 9-to-5 and I don't have a normal life by any means, but I still, knowing the answer doesn't help the anxiety at all because you still have anxiety. When I wake up every single morning, I try not to even touch my phone for a while not because I plan on jumping on social media or TikTok or whatever. It's because like, who the hell knows what the world's about to throw at me? You know what I mean? It's like who the hell knows?
It's so true. That's so fucking
like,
true. It's like almost like a same thing. I just like, because I know like as soon as I see it, there's something there that's just gonna just change my whole mood, and I have to just get into another direction now where I want it to go. It's almost like it's like I like just dread having to grab it, but
yeah.
sometimes it's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing. Like,
yeah, I guess it gives you purpose and pressure at the same time.
Yeah.
Like those days, I don't know if you have these, I'm sure you do, like these days where you wake up and you feel pretty good, like, man, like, I got a good night's sleep last night. Like, this is going to be a good day. You wake up and you feel good. The coffee smells better.
Yeah.
Fucking, you look outside, you're like, today's not going to be too cold, not too hot, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it to the gym on time. Like, I'm going to work out today. Like, you know what I mean? And then you pick up the damn phone and it's like, you get a message like, sorry it's late, I'm sure you'll read this in the morning, but blah 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 happened and I'm like, fuck, I might not even get to take a shower this morning. I gotta get out the door. Like, right? Like, those are like mornings, man. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then hopefully sprinkled in there to remind you that life is beautiful. As shitty as it is, it could be pretty too. Is that you get those messages where it's like, hey man, like I got a message today that a guy that's been really struggling in addiction, and he was like, hey bro, I'm 4 days clean. He says, I was just like, dude, I'm super proud of you. So it like messages like that help me like with the messages that will come after that, because I'm just like, whatever, love me, hate me, unapologetically, I'm fucking me at the end of the day. I want to put, as long as I'm putting more good out than people think I'm putting bad, or maybe I am putting bad, like, you know what I mean? Like, then I can live with myself, you know? And I sleep okay at night with the idea that like, even if I misconstrued one way or the other, that I ain't in this world to fuck people over. Like, I've been in cannabis 15 years, and I tell people all the time, the only reason I'm not in prison or in a hole in the ground is because I don't do dirty shit. Even if I have to make decisions that people don't agree with. You know? I think that's like that in anything, right?
Yeah, that's so true. And one more question before we close out. I feel like there's so much we could talk about though, but one more question. What would you tell your younger self? I don't always ask this question. I'm not like that guy. I really asked this question when we used to do our groups in prison. But I feel like that you have a really important answer for that question. What would you tell your younger self today?
I have a few of them. I actually think about this like when I just posted some pictures I found. I finally went through my mom's stuff. She passed away a few years ago, and I'd never went through her stuff. I found a bunch of pictures of like this little fuckhead with big clothes on, like thinking he was a little gangster, like of me. You know what I mean? And I was like, damn, man, like, it's crazy. But man, my younger self, I'd probably say, don't go out that one girl. No, that would be but I think the younger self, man, it's really tough because I think about this, and I think would my younger self even listen to it now? Maybe if I actually was to somehow in like a movie, like, they go back and they meet your younger self, then I'd probably be like, oh fuck, this is pretty deep. I probably should listen to that guy. You know what I mean? But I would probably, I'd tell my younger self, be honest with you that it's going to be okay. Like what you're going through is temporary. You know what I mean? Because I used to think I'd change something. You see kids like that grew up in a nice neighborhood and, they were given a fucking Honda or a BMW when they turned 16 and shit. And I used to be like, man, like when I'd like meet those girls when I was in high school, I'd be like, what the fuck are you over here in the hood for? Like, go back to the fucking your neighborhood. Like you're gonna get in trouble over here. Yeah. And but I kind of secretly want to be those kids. You know what I mean? Growing up, because I'm like, man, they have it made. They don't have to struggle. They're not getting locked out of their fucking home because someone's cooking in the kitchen. You know what I mean? But I don't think I would. Because like I wouldn't have the work ethic that I have now if I didn't go through that. So I'd tell them, I'd probably, say to steer clear from some of the friends that I had. Like you're gonna have some brushes with both prison time and death because of a few situations that, I have a friend of mine that ended up dying from leukemia in prison. He was already in for like 8 years when he died. And it was a sad situation. Last time I seen him in the hospital, he's like handcuffed to the bed. I'm like, where's this dude going? Like he's not faking leukemia; he's about to die, you know. But it was one of those deals, and I was supposed to be with him the night that we were used to take cars, you know, didn't pull cars back in the day. And I was supposed to be with him that night, and I didn't feel well, and I didn't go with him. So him and this other dude ended up getting into a high-speed chase and running their car to avoid the cops, ran the car up into someone's garage and killed somebody in the garage that was sleeping in the garage. I was supposed to be with them that night. I'd probably say, like, you know, look, don't hang out with this person, don't hang out with that person. The rest of this shit you're going through will pass, and you're going to be very strong for it when you grow up. You know, and it's, and then maybe to learn Spanish. Because that's the thing I fucked up on. You know, I didn't learn Spanish growing up. My stepdad was from Sinaloa. You know, I should have actually learned that because obviously that would benefit me in business today. Yeah. But I know that, you know, that might not be the traditional answer of like, you know, but I think that that's probably what I would sit down if I had 30 minutes with my younger self and probably talk about. Stop wearing dumb fucking clothes. That would probably be another one.
Right? Yeah, that's an important message for somebody out there that's going to hear that. And I think it's just a real answer. You know, it's not like this, you know, in deep conversation. Because like you said, at that age, we don't even want to hear that shit. Like, what's just the real, tell me some real shit that I need to know that can help me through the moment that I'm going through. And, you know, who you surround yourself with is so important. And I think as a person who also has like anxiety, I never had anxiety in prison when literally there was times when I'd probably get killed, never felt it. But I felt anxiety when I got out of prison and still to this day. And this guy who was a friend of mine was like, you know, success brings anxiety because, you know, you were so conditioned to being like a failure and a loser and always putting your life at risk in prison to where like when like good things started to happen like it is now and you're having success, your body, your mind just doesn't know how to respond to that because you're not used to that. So I say what helped me was just surrounding myself with great people and having good people to talk to and just to talk shit with. And that helps me a lot. Like when I call my friends and say like, do you feel this or do you experience this? And we were all in prison together. So I just know that I'm, you know, that person you can call anytime, man, or reach out to whenever you're feeling a certain way. And
yeah, vice versa, man. We're not in our immediate circles. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, I think it is good to have somebody that's not necessarily there with you every day. That's kind of like, you'll get over it to be able to bounce things off of, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel the same way, seriously. You know, no one meets by chance, even if it's a bad one, even if it's just to teach you a lesson. Like, no one meets by chance, you know what I mean? And so there's a reason why literally the first episode of like 1,000 episode podcast happened to be yours. Like, you know what I mean? There's got to be a reason. I don't believe in any of that anymore, that it was just some weird random act.
Coincidence,
Coincidence, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And how can people, you know, find more about what you do or, you know, your businesses and the company that you run and stuff like that, social media?
I think that I'm trying to like clean that up because every time like there's been a division of the company start or like, you know, a different thing that I'm doing, obviously, like, you know, I have a social media person that I kind of don't use anymore because I feel like all that happened was it confused everybody because now, you know, I get friends that'll say, I don't even know where the hell to follow you at. Like, you got all this stuff. But I started something that I would say would be kind of like the umbrella company that encompasses everything, and that's Eat What You Kill. I've always really liked that statement of like, you know, if you want something, you got to go out and get it. You know what I mean? So on social media, like really, it'll all be switched over to that like in the next couple of days. But I started an Instagram that's Eat What You Kill Management. Right. And it's EWYKMGMT, so management abbreviated. So Eat What You Kill Management. So yeah, that's probably the easiest way to find me and like some of the stuff that we're gonna be, you know, kind of rolling all together in there, you know. And then we have our podcast. I need to really get back on those episodes because it kind of took off. A couple episodes went viral. I mean, you know, I was blessed to have a couple guests on there with huge followings right off the bat. And that's our Raised by Wolves podcast, you know, that's on YouTube. We took it off the other platforms until we actually get going again. And that's Raised by Wolves is spelled weird because, you know, why would I spell it normal? It's it's youtube.com at RZDXWLVS. So yeah, so it's spelled a little different, obviously. RZDXWLVS. And that's on YouTube, and we have I think we have like 10 episodes of the podcast. Nice. But my wife's episode went viral, like on everything, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, everything, and it just was crazy. Some of the things she was talking about, I don't think people even believed.
Yeah.
They were like, "What the hell?" Like, this pretty girl went through all this shit, but I didn't even believe it when I met her, honestly.
Yeah.
And then when I started like meeting her and meeting like her probation officer and like all, I'm just like, holy shit! Like, so it wasn't just the guys that grew up in San Bernardino that were wrecks.
Yeah.
I mean, but she's an amazing woman that has her shit together now, for sure. You know, so that's how you can find me, and I appreciate you like doing this, man. I was very motivated. I might offend some people. I've been asked recently to be on, in this last year, like cannabis podcast, business podcast, but I knew that this would be more of a conversation that we'd be talking about stuff like if we were just having lunch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
so I appreciate what you're doing, man, and and really, man, I'm just looking forward to just hopefully becoming good friends, man. Putting some good into the world, dude. Honestly. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much, Joe.
No
Appreciate
problem,
you,
man.
brother.
Thanks, man.
All right, man.
Yeah, thanks.
God bless.